right, how you doing, everybody? Nick DiVirgilio here. Welcome back to Groovy Thursdays. We made it to groove number 26. Halfway through the year, I can't believe it. I was determined to get a groove out every week, and so far I've kept my own goal. And I'm very proud of myself because, it's hard to put these out every week. I'm so glad you're here spending some time with me today because this groove is pretty cool. I think it is anyway. It's from my old band Spock's Beard from our record Octane, and the song is called Surfing Down the Avalanche. Let's rock. I chose the second verse of the song for today's groove. If you start the song from the very beginning and you go to 48 seconds, that's where the second verse starts. I chose this groove for a number of reasons. Number one, it's fun to play. That's always a good thing. Number two, it's in 5/4. 5 is a great odd time signature to play in. 3, it's short. It's only 2 bars long and just keeps repeating over and over again. And number 4, it has a really nice linear quality to it. Your two hands and your kick drum never play at the same time. Your left foot is keeping time playing quarter notes, but what's hard about it is throughout the 2-bar phrase, what plays at the same time as the closed hi-hat changes. The way I played this groove at the beginning of the video here, I used my stack cymbal. If you don't have a stack cymbal on your drum kit, you can use anything else on your kit just to take place of that particular instrument. You could use the bell of your ride cymbal. That's a great sound for this groove. You could use the rim of one of your toms. You could use a china. You could go back to the hat if you want to cross back over again. Once you get the groove down, challenge yourself and move the accents of this groove around your kit to different instruments. It's good to train your brain to hear different sounds when you're playing any groove, because sometimes when you get used to playing a particular pattern, you do it one way. As soon as you use one of your limbs to change it to a different part of the drum kit, just that different sound alone can really trip you up. You're playing the exact same thing with your hands and feet, but just the different sound messes up your brain. So once again, when you get this groove down, go ahead and move the accents all around your drum kit. All right, let's get into it. Like I mentioned earlier, this groove is only 2 bars long. So your hi-hat foot, making the chick sound, plays every quarter note of each bar. So 5 quarter notes a bar. Pretty simple there. Your 2 hands and your foot are playing only 8th notes throughout this whole 2-bar groove. There's nothing else in there. No 16th notes, no triplets, no quintuplets, no 5-stroke rolls, no buzzes, no nothing. Only 8th notes. And what's cool about that, in its simplicity, is that you play all of the strokes hard. There's no real dynamics in this groove to speak of. Every stroke is meant to be hard. It's playing on top of a really distorted bass and guitar track. It's a heavy song. It's a little metalish, it's like a little prog metal kind of song. And the vocal's really hard. It's dark. So every stroke should be hard and deliberate. I'm going to talk about the sticking I used in the groove being a right-handed player. If you're a left-handed player, just turn the sticking around. And if you're an open-handed player, use the right-handed sticking and I think you'll be just fine with it. In beat 1, the first 2 8th notes, the first 2 strokes are rack tom, floor tom, left hand, right hand. Then you immediately follow that with a kick drum on the downbeat of beat 2, and on the 2 and is your snare drum. What you'll find in those first 3 strokes, the 1 and 2, it's a real typical sort of triplet fill. Talking triplets for just a second, that motion, rack, floor, kick. A lot of us have used that triplet fill a lot in drum solos and fills throughout recordings, and I'm sure you have too. But since we're not playing triplets, we're playing 8th notes, that snare drum on 2 and is a great stopping point. So rack, floor, kick, snare. Rack, floor, kick, snare. Then on beat 3, the 2 8th notes of beat 3 are just kick drums. So 3 and are both kick drums. Those first 3 beats are exactly the same in bar 2. With that said, the first thing to do is just to practice those first 3 beats. Rack, floor, kick, snare, kick, kick. Rack, floor, kick, snare, kick, kick. Rack, floor, kick, snare, kick, kick. For the snare hit on beat 2 and, I am using my left hand. So I'm just going from the rack right down to the snare. I don't have to move anything or cross anything over. It's just a nice straight line from the rack tom to the snare drum. Rack, floor, kick, snare, kick, kick. Rack, floor, kick, snare, kick, kick. Nice straight line. That also makes it a little bit easier to get those nice loud strokes on both the toms and the snare drum. Now that we know that the first 3 beats of each bar are the same, we can concentrate on beats 4 and 5 of each bar. So you can also think of this groove as in 2 chunks, a 3-beat chunk and a 2-beat chunk, if that helps you out. The first 2-beat chunk, beats 4 and 5 of bar 1, I start right on the downbeat of beat 4 at my stack cymbal, immediately followed by a snare on 4 and, kick drum on the downbeat of beat 5, and on 5 back to the stack cymbal. What's fun about this, if you look at the transcription, that first 3-beat chunk right on the downbeat of beat 1, you're starting with your left hand. That's the lead stroke. The 2-beat chunk is starting on my right hand on the stack cymbal. So one chunk of the groove starts on your left side, one chunk of the groove starts on your right side. It's a fun way to think about it. But in the second bar, that 2-beat chunk is just this much different. In the second bar, on the downbeat of beat 4, the first stroke is the snare drum on your left hand. And on the 4 it's back to the stack cymbal. So it's snare stack like that. Then you immediately follow it with the kick drum on the downbeat of beat 5 with a snare on 5 . Looking at just the stack cymbal where the accents fall on that instrument, it's on beat 4, the downbeat of bar 1, and on 5 and then on 4 of the second bar. So that fast decayed, trashy sound changes just this much in 2 bars quickly, and you have to keep time with your hi-hat on the left side. In the song, in the recorded song, you really don't hear the hi-hat keeping time, because it's mixed in with everything. But I think it's a good challenge when you're just playing this groove to really keep that time. Something you could do if you have it lying around your house, around your drum kit, is to get a ching ring, the little tambourines that attach to the hi-hat rod, or you can get the other kind that just lay right on top of your hi-hat cymbal. That tambourine sound is a really nice loud tone. That jingling tambourine tone is a really cool sound that'll really stick out while you're practicing if the chick sound is not being loud enough for you. One thing I suggest you do while you're at home practicing this groove is to play a little time before and after this particular 2-bar groove. You can play like 4 bars of 5/4, just nice and straight. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, boom, boom, ka, boom, pa. Something really simple, or just play a regular beat in 4/4 time. It doesn't matter. As long as your time is solid and you're going back and forth between 4/4 and 5/4 without slowing down or speeding up or anything like that, it's totally fine. It doesn't matter. But keeping that time before and after this groove will kind of internalize it more, and then maybe put a bar of fill at the end of these 2 bars and then go back into time. So change it up, try some different things so when you get in and out of this groove, you're still solid with your time, your internal clock. Or if you play to a click, which I definitely recommend when you're practicing, it's always a good thing to play to a metronome. Getting in and out of this groove, going back into time, throwing in a fill here and there will really make your time a lot more solid. And I want to reiterate, every stroke of your hands and your kick drum foot are solid, loud strokes. One last little challenge that this groove has in it is when you repeat, when you go from the end of bar 2 back to the beginning of bar 1, you're doing 2 left-hand strokes. The reason that happens is because where the stack cymbal falls in that second bar on beat 4 on 5 the snare drum has to be in my left hand. So you have 2 left-hand strokes. At the end of bar 2, going back into the beginning of bar 1, goes snare, rack tom, snare, rack tom. The hard part is making those loud, solid hits with that motion, snare, rack. You've got this kind of pushing motion. You strike down on the snare drum and then immediately have to go up. If you don't raise your hand enough, you could go right into your rack tom. I've done it before, believe me, it doesn't feel that great. So you have to lift up your hand, your forearm, your elbow, your shoulder, all of it has to lift up and move forward in 1/8 notes time. And you want to have solid strokes in that short amount of time, solid hits on the drums. For me, that's the hardest part of the whole groove, and to keep time while doing that. You don't have that much time to get up to the rack tom on the downbeat of beat 1, right? Boom, boom. And it's really easy, believe me, I know from experience, to rush that particular motion, the snare straight up to your rack tom motion, this thing. So just slow it down and make sure you stay in time with your metronome and with your click. And I want to reiterate, every stroke with your hands and your kick drum are full on. Don't worry about dynamics here. Big fat rim shots on your snare drum, thunderous hits on your toms, a real loud crack on your stack cymbal or your ride or your china, whatever you're going to hit. This is a heavy groove, so play it heavy. And there you go, groove number 26 in our Groovy Thursdays hang. If you like what's going on here at Groovy Thursdays, I ask that you like this video, subscribe to the channel, share the video with all your friends, keep bringing on comments and suggestions for future grooves. We're going to get to groove number 27 next week. Come on back and join me, everybody. Have a great week. Cheers.